This woman has applied for a visa for the 99th time, and even gave birth to a child for the visa.
生孩子，这为了签证嘛。
The woman lowered her head with a guilty conscience, and the embarrassment on her face proved that this was indeed the case. After the incident, her husband anxiously asked about the situation. However, the woman laughed wildly, until she cried with joy, and laughed until tears flowed out of her eyes. However, after finally leaving her husband and going to the United States for a month, she prayed in the letter, Nan Sheng, I really can't stand it anymore, would you like to come back? The man didn't ask his wife the reason for coming back, and resolutely said ruthlessly, for the sake of the children, you don't come back. My wife got a LPR card from the United States and wanted to divorce Nan Sheng. Of course Nan Sheng refused. He didn't want a divorce. He just wanted to grow old together with her in the United States. After sending the letter for a long time, there was no reply. Nan Sheng gradually felt impatient. He suspected that his wife had abandoned him and turned to the arms of an American man. After all, Ahong was young and beautiful and had no shortage of men's love. The broken family made him gradually feel impatient, so she decided to go abroad to look for Ahong. However, in order to send Ahong abroad, the family had spent all their savings and owed a large amount of foreign debt. He narrowly escaped death and smuggled himself to the United States, embarking on an uncertain journey to find his wife. He first found his old classmate according to the address. The classmate took out 2 bottles of wine. Nan Sheng, who had not had a drink for many days, drank anxiously. When he heard the news about his wife Ahong, he suddenly choked. She didn't know I was coming and I wanted to surprise her. You are so romantic. Nan Sheng anxiously asked a classmate about his wife. The classmate said that he had seen Ahong at an art exhibition. She was covered in jewels and looked like a rich woman. He also left her her home address. Looking for the address, the 2 of them arrived there. It was so filthy that no one could live in a place like this. It was hard to imagine how a young and beautiful woman like Ahong could survive in this underground tunnel, especially in the words of a classmate. It was the neighbors who were particularly discriminatory against Chinese people. Not only did they not ask about Ahong's whereabouts, they also had conflicts with their neighbors. Only a kind neighbor told them that Ahong had moved away long ago. The sudden interruption of the news left Nan Sheng empty-hearted. She could only relieve her worries by drinking boring wine. She suspected that Ahong had not moved away but disappeared. Anyway, she just refused to admit that she had abandoned her. After a few glasses of wine, Nan Sheng admitted to his classmates the truth about smuggling to the United States. He took out the remaining money and wanted to use it as living expenses at his classmate's house. As long as you're in New York, all your food and accommodation are mine, okay? Don't worry about me, even if you have to sign a 100-year life contract, I will help you find your wife. The classmate was willing to go to Nan Sheng's expense for the sake of their friendship, but for the LPR card, he soon kicked the sleeping Nan Sheng out of the house. While I was applying for a residence permit, he gave Nan Sheng a few $100s and used the money to buy out the friendship he had had with Nan Sheng for more than 10 years. Nan Sheng understood the difficulties of his old classmate, so he didn't bother to pester him shamelessly. Wandering alone on the streets of a foreign country, insisting on searching for his wife's whereabouts, but due to the language barrier and all the money, I was so poor that I could only eat a little bit of each piece of bread, and then wrap it up and divide it into 2 meals. Nan Sheng, who was sleeping on the street, lay down and fell asleep on the street, not knowing that fate would torture him again. A homeless man stole his leather shoes while he was sleeping. During the chase, Nan Sheng met a woman whose back looked very similar to Ahong's. She followed him with her last hope and accidentally rescued her from a gang fight. Nan Sheng thought Ajin was Chinese because she could speak Chinese, but Ajin was very concerned and insisted that she was American. In order to repay Nan Sheng for saving her life, Ajin promised to help her find Ahong. The next day, she took Nansheng in a stolen luxury car and went with Nansheng to the school where Ahong once studied. The female teacher told Nansheng that Ahong had not come to school for more than half a year because he had been assaulted by a boy. Ahong's eyes widened with anger, and he excitedly took out a screwdriver and scratched the boy. If not for everyone stopping him, he would have almost died. But in the end, the police were not called because Ahong's visa had just expired and he would be deported to the country if he called the police. At that time, it was Nansheng who wrote her a letter asking her not to come back. The last time the teacher saw Ahong, she was carrying an old mattress with excitement on her face.
我爱人跟儿子会搬来跟我一起住，家里还没有床。
Carrying the mattress on her back, she rode a dilapidated bicycle and drove forward with difficulty, almost falling several times, just to take the mattress to her home dozens of kilometers away, so that her husband and children could have a bed to sleep on. However, she has not slept on a mattress in the 3 years since she came to the United States. Fortunately, Nansheng learned from the teacher where Ahong worked. They can meet again tomorrow and continue to live in freedom. She loves you so much, and she found a bed and moved it home. You want to turn into a handsome boy and show it to her. In order for Nansheng to appear decently in front of Ahong, Ajahn specially styled Nansheng's body and lent him money to buy him a bouquet of roses. Then Nansheng found the Chinese restaurant according to the address and told him that he was Ahong's husband. The landlady immediately showed disgust and waited for a long time before opening the door and letting Nansheng in. But Nansheng didn't see Ahong, and the boss was also very hostile to Nansheng. He also said that Ahong never said she had a husband. Nansheng quickly took out a photo to prove her identity. It's really strange for you people from the mainland to kick your wife out, have no money, no job, no house, and only one life, and you just lie at home and eat foreign exchange. Do you understand? A woman has nothing but one life in New York. Do you understand? Do you understand that she has no money to buy sanitary napkins when she gets her period? Do you understand what it feels like to be raped? Nansheng looked shocked. Although she knew that Ahong was living a hard life alone, she didn't expect that her dignity would be trampled on. When he was in China, he never imagined that Ahong would be violated, not only once or twice, but once the boss and his wife rescued her. The wife of the boss wanted to call the police in a panic, but Ahong stopped her. You can't call the police, I have no identity. As a victim, Ahong has no way to protect her own safety through legal means. The corners of her mouth were bruised, her face was hideous and painful, and she huddled in the corner in fear. The boss said that the last time he saw Ahong, there was an old man in his 60s beside him. Ahong left in a hurry when he saw them, but the man was very attentive to her, and it was obvious that the relationship between the two was unusual. Before leaving, the boss handed Nansheng the box left by Ahong. Ahong said that it contained her most expensive things. As soon as she opened the box, there was a very disgusting smell. There was a suit and an old toy for her child. He saw bugs crawling on the suit. He took it off and found a bunch of local delicacies that Ahong had left for her husband and children underneath. They had rotted and deteriorated. Nansheng was disgusted by all this, and her heart could not calm down for a long time. He couldn't understand why Ahong ended up in such a situation in the United States where gold was everywhere. Based on the address Ahong left in the suitcase, Nansheng and Ajahn found a laundry, and the old man confessed that he was Ahong's husband. The man said that he and Ahong met on a blind date. You marry me, you apply for an LPR card for me, and we get married immediately, but I will take care of your daily life and food. I promise not to get divorced within 10 years, and I can also help you have a child. Ahong was young, beautiful and educated, so of course the man agreed, but Ahong was already married, so she wrote to Nansheng for divorce and got the divorce certificate. But Nansheng thought she ran away with the rich man. Later he took the money to buy furniture and the money for the honeymoon. Nansheng's clues were broken again, and Nansheng left in despair. She had no idea that a Hong would experience so much torture. After a series of aimless searches, Nanxing reached his psychological and physical limits. The obsession to find his wife completely overwhelmed Nanxing, and he passed out on the streets of a foreign country. At this moment, the United States is full of gold, and gold belongs to the rich. The poor will live in hell forever. When he got sick, he was seriously ill and almost took half his life. Fortunately, he survived because he was unwilling to give up. Find a Hong and make up for her. Nanxing gets to know her dark side while getting along with Ajin. Ajin inadvertently leads Nanxing to understand the monster of life. Stop thinking about Mrs. Lincoln, think about money. Life has taught Nanxing enough lessons. Since then, Nanxing, the people's teacher, has become a pimp, and many of the ethics and integrity in Nanxing's heart have gradually collapsed. This feeling of powerlessness deeply tortured Nanxing. He called his parents and wanted to go home. I want to go back, right away.
你千万不要回来啊！除非你没饭吃要饿死了，或者得了重病，否则千万不要回来。
男生，你千万不要回来啊！
我们虽然年纪大了，但还可以养大珊珊。
Listening to the rejection of the parents' appraisal, Nanxing deeply felt a Hong's despair at that time. Thinking of his ruthlessness at that time, he forced Ah Hong to stay alone in the United States, and he didn't know whether he was dead or alive. He must have brought this result on himself. The next day, Ajin hugged him tightly and told him that she was going back to China. She had tasted the ups and downs of life at a young age, so she decided to go back to China to study and start a new life in an upright way. Influenced by her, Nanxing found a new job delivering food, while continuing to see Ah Hong. One day, when he was delivering takeout and going downstairs, he caught a glimpse of a familiar yet unfamiliar figure from the corner of his eye. He didn't dare to look back confidently, and his eyes met. His eyes were full of complexity and true feelings, and Ah Hong was so excited that he couldn't speak. As the words came, only tears flowed silently.
男生。
Nanxing didn't dare to recognize her. She had endured too much torture, and most of it came from him. But the warmth in her palms and her slightly trembling hands proved that she still loved him, and he couldn't forget her. I wrote one letter after another, before moving and also after moving. Impossible, I didn't receive one. There's no way you didn't receive it. However, on the second day, Ah Hong seemed to be a completely different person. Not only did he forbid him from speaking Chinese, but he also kept insulting him. After she left, Nanxing chased her out, but accidentally knocked over something on the cabinet. After taking a closer look, he realized that it was the letters that Ah Hong said had been sent, but it turned out that she had not sent them at all. Nanxing also noticed something strange about Ah Hong and discovered that Ah Hong was defrauding Chinese elderly people of their money.
下个月呢，我会抽空回广州一趟，要不要我替你带钱给你的孙女？
This made Nanxing even more certain that Ah Hong had a mental problem. He couldn't bear to see his wife fall into the abyss of crime, so he stepped forward to stop her.
男生，你的爱人啊！我们有个孩子叫珊珊。
Nanxing was stabbed by a Hong screwdriver. Ah Hong looked at the group photo and suddenly remembered that distant name. She also couldn't remember who Nanxing was. The two reunited in the sorrow of the times, destined to have a tragic ending. Nanxing finally atones for his ruthlessness, while Ah Hong pays the price for her ideals, a price that will torture her until her death.